Hello everyone. This is our third video on the topic basic sentence pattern. In the first video, we discussed what is a basic sentence and then we discussed the 7 basic sentence patterns in English. In our second video, we took up the practice exercise. We tried to identify the sentence patterns in the given sentences. So today also we will practice some exercise here and we'll try to identify the sentence patterns in the given sentences. So here are the 7 basic sentence patterns that we have already discussed. And as I told you that the more you practice, the better your understanding will be about these 7 basic sentence patterns. And you can consult any grammar book for the practice exercise. And in this video also we are going to practice exercise and we are going to take up a few sentences and we'll try to identify the sentence pattern in those sentences. So here are a few sentences and we'll try to identify the sentence patterns in these sentences. She goes to school. Now she is the subject here, goes is the verb, and to school is an expression of place. So it is an adverbial here. She goes to school. So the sentence pattern here is SPA or SVA. Paul hired a bicycle. Now Paul is the subject, hired is the verb, and a bicycle is an object. It is a noun which is acting as an object. It is the receiver of an action. That is, it is a receiver of the verb hire. So here we have the sentence pattern S plus V plus O. The wall collapsed. The wall is the subject and collapsed is the verb. So you have SV or SP. He brought me a cup of tea. He is the subject, brought is the verb, me is an object, and again a cup of tea is an object. So you have two objects here. One is indirect object and the next is the direct object. So here the sentence pattern is SPIO and then DO. Me is the indirect object and a cup of tea is direct object. Now you can passivize the sentence with both the objects, isn't it? A cup of tea was brought for me by him. Yes. Here we have two objects in this sentence. He painted the room blue. He is the subject. Painted is the verb here. The room is object and blue is an adjective which is qualifying the room. So the pattern in this sentence is S plus V plus O plus OC. Then the next sentence, he looked confident. Now he is the subject, looked is the verb here, and confident is an adjective which is qualifying the pronoun he. So he looked confident. The pattern, the sentence pattern will be S plus P plus SC. Mary promised me a gift. Mary is the subject, promised is the object here, and again we have two objects here, me and a gift. Me is the indirect object and a gift is the direct object. So the sentence pattern here becomes S plus P plus IO plus DO. The board selected him president. The board selected him president. So the board is the subject here, selected is the verb, him is the object here, and president is an adjective which is being used to qualify him. That is, it is qualifying an object. So here president is the object complement. So the pattern in this sentence would be S plus P plus O plus OC. Abraham is a saint. Now Abraham is a saint. So Abraham is the subject and then we have a saint, that is it is qualifying Abraham. So the sentence pattern here would be SPSC. He kept the bag on the floor. He is the subject, the verb that is kept, the bag is the object, and on the floor, where? So it is on the floor. It is an adverbial here. So the pattern here would be S plus P plus O and then plus A. In the next slide, you have the answers to these sentences. As you can see, here are the answers to the 10 sentences that we discussed in the previous slide. So here is a different type of exercise on the basic sentence patterns. Now we see that here we have the patterns before us and we are supposed to frame sentences on the given patterns. If you look at the old question paper, then you'll find these type of exercises. The questions were formed on these type of exercises. For example, in the year 2017 and 18, you have these type of questions where the patterns are given and you are supposed to frame the sentences. So we'll practice on this also. So we have the patterns, we have 5 types of patterns here and we'll frame sentences on these patterns. So the first one is subject plus verb B type plus adverbial. Okay. So, for example, the sentence, the fruits are in the basket. Now, this is an example of this first pattern. The fruits, that is the subject, are is the B type of verb, and in the basket is the adverbial. Then you, for example, they are in the class. This is again an example of this type of pattern. The cock is on the roof. Okay, so you can form sentences on the basis of this pattern. Then you have subject plus verb transitive plus indirect object plus direct object. For example, he wrote him a letter. He wrote him a letter. Now here you have two objects, him and a letter. I gave her a pen. They promised us a gift. He brought me a cup of tea. So all these are examples of subject verb, which is transitive, and then you have the direct object and the indirect object. Then you have subject plus verb intransitive. Now you know that an intransitive verb may not need an object. So here we have subject plus verb intransitive. For example, dogs bark. Now here the sentence doesn't require an object. Dogs bark is complete in itself, and so it is an example of subject plus verb intransitive. Similarly, you may write birds fly, the sun shines, they went. Okay, then the fourth you have subject plus verb transitive plus object and then plus adjective. That is, this adjective, it is following the object and it would qualify the object. So for example, the manager appointed him clerk. The manager appointed him clerk. Now him is the object and clerk is an adjective which is qualifying the object. Another example of this type can be, for example, he appointed John his assistant. I called my dog Dodo, which we have already taken up. Then, for example, they elected him president. They painted the room blue. All these are examples of subject plus verb transitive plus object, and then you have an adjective which is qualifying the object. Then subject plus verb have type plus object. For example, they have many books. We have a car, isn't it? We is the subject, have is the have verb here, and a car is the object. George has a car. Seema had a cottage. Have type of verbs are used here. So these are the example of subject plus verb have type plus object. So practice this kind of exercise also, where you will have to frame sentences in the given patterns. And as I told you earlier, practice only will improve your understanding of the basic sentence patterns, and you will find these kind of exercises in all the grammar books, and you can consult any grammar book. For example, Wren and Martin, R.R. Standard English Grammar by R.R. Menon is there. Then there are grammar books by Thompson and Martinet. So you can take up any grammar book and you will find exercises related to basic sentence patterns. So keep practicing. Thank you.